Welcome back to this lecture on GSM, the Global System for Mobile Communications. So in this class we are going to learn the cellular generations, the different services of GSM, the typical architecture of GSM along with subsystems, the protocol plane consisting of the 5 layers of GSM, localization and calling approaches, the mobile originated call, the mobile terminated call, and the various addresses and identifiers that are used for performing them. Handovers in GSM, the reason for handovers and the types of handovers, and finally the security services that GSM provides. We start looking at GSM. Let's take a look at the cellular generations. The first generation systems in the 1980s mainly used frequency division multiple access or FDMA for analog voice. The different systems were AMPS called Advanced Mobile Phone System and Total Access Communication System called TACS. These two were the first generation systems. Coming to the second generations, the systems around 1990s, instead of FDMA, TDMA or time division multiple access schemes came into picture, and digital voice were made use by a number of systems. So the second generation systems were Qualcomm International Standard, NA TDMA, Digital AMS or DAMS, and GSM, the Global System for Mobile Communications. After that, combining voice and high-speed data came the third generation systems. So now in today's class we are going to look at the second generation system called the GSM, the Global System for Mobile Communications. At the introduction, the GSM was developed by Groupe Spatial et Mobile in 1984. It's a second generation cellular standard developed to cater voice services and data delivery using digital modulation. GSM is a public land mobile network and its main aim is to replace the incomparable analog system. You may be surprised to know that there are almost 135 providers all over the world who use GSM with around 1,300 million subscribers. In India, we have about 45 million GSM subscribers. Services of GSM are varied. It provides various basic services which include the bearer services, telemetry services, and the supplementary services. The bearer services allow data transmission, both transparent, non-transparent, synchronous and asynchronous. The telemetry services enable voice communication through and also non-voice services such as SMS, voice emails, etc. The supplementary services of GSM provide additional services like the call forwarding, automatic callback, conferencing, etc. Architecture. The GSM architecture consists of 3 important subsystems. In the diagram you can see that there are 3 subsystems, namely the RSS, the NSS and the OSS. Let's take a look at the RSS. In this diagram of the architecture of GSM, you can see the components of RSS, the components of the NSS and the OSS. Let's see what these subsystems are. Radio subsystem, which is generally called the RSS, consists of the radio specific components. In this diagram you can see that the radio subsystem consists of components like the mobile stations, the base station subsystem. The base station subsystem is nothing but the BTS and the BSC. The BTS is called the base transceiver station and the BSC is the base station controller. In the diagram you can see that two or more mobile stations are connected to a base transceiver station. and two or more base transceiver stations are in turn connected to the base station controller called the BSC, which controls any number of transceivers. And you can also note that there are a number of interfaces. Here you can see the UM interface, the A interface and the ABIS interface between the BTS and the BSC. Now let's go to the next subsystem, network and switching subsystem called the NSS. The main component of NSS and its functionality is switching, mobility management and of course the interconnection with other networks. The very first and foremost or core component of the NSS is the MSC, which is called the Mobile Services Switching Center. It controls all connections from the GSM network to the other BSCs. There are also databases maintained by the NSS, namely the Home Location Register and the Visitor Location Register. Let's take a look at what this Home Location Register is, or the HLR is. Now HLR is a master database containing data about all permanent and semi-permanent subscribers, and the VLR is a local database in contrast to the HLR, which contains a subset of the user data which are currently visiting a particular domain. The MSC, which is the heart of the GSM, involves switching, mobility management, and of course you can find a GMSC called the Gateway MSC, which integrates and acts as a gateway from a GSM network to any other non-GSM network. Coming to the next subsystem, or the OSS. The OSS, as the name indicates, you can see that all the operations are controlled and monitored and supervised by this OSS. It enables centralized operation, management and the maintenance of all the GSM subsystems. The important components are three. Number one, it's called the Authentication Center, or the AUC. Number two, the Equipment Identity Register, called the EIR. And number three, the Operation and Maintenance Center, called the OMC. The AUC, called the Authentication Center, generates specific authentication parameters. It works for providing security to the GSM subscribers. It makes use of functions like algorithms like and for encryption, key generation and so on. Coming to the EIR, the Equipment Identity Register. It's a database that contains details of all IMEIs of all GSM subscribers. The IMEI stands for the International Mobile Equipment Identity. So all device identifications are stored in this register. Now this register details could be of three categories. One, it could be a white list, a grey list or a black list. Valid IMEI numbers and the corresponding devices are categorized as white list. There may be a few malfunctioning devices which are categorized as the grey list, and of course a set of stolen or locked devices under a category called the blacklist. Coming to the Operation and Maintenance Center, the OMC. The Operation Maintenance Center monitors and controls all network entities through the O interface. The important functions are the traffic monitoring, status reports, security management, accounting and billing for the entire GSM architecture. The protocol architecture of GSM. In the protocol architecture, you can see in the diagram, you can see that there are different interfaces between the different entities. So on one end you will have the mobile station or the MS, on the other end you will have the MSC, the Mobile Switching Center. So between each of these entities, a number of protocols are implemented. So in the MSC you can see there are 5 layers, whereas in BTS and BSC there are less number of layers when compared to the MSC and MS. So the layers are divided as radio and the LAPD layer,
which stands for the link access procedure for D channel, or you can call it as link access procedure protocol for type D. The radio resource layer called the RR layer, the MM layer which is called the mobility management, and the CM layer called the communication management or the call management layer. So there are different layers, and here in BSc and MSc you can see the SS7 or the security protocol being implemented there, which gives security to the data that has been transmitted from one GSM mobile station to another mobile station. And the physical layers, you can see there is PCM, which is the pulse code modulation that has been done by the physical layer, and in between the BTS and the BSc you can see the ABIS interface. So the UM interface, the ABIS interface and the A interface all play a very important role in the protocol architecture, and the different protocols are made use in these layers, and every layer is responsible in performing specific functions. So the 5 layers can be summarized as, so you have the physical layer with layer 1 or the lower layer, which performs the radio specific functions for modulations. I told you the pulse code modulation, encryption, decryption. And you have the second layer called the LAPD layer, which is the link access procedure for D channel or link access procedure protocol. It provides the reliable data transfer for connection, for resequencing of data frames, the flow control, the segmentations, and the assembly of the packet when it is received. So the third layer, the network layer, specifically in the diagram we saw that is performs the radio resource management. So the radio resource management layer or the network layer specifically works on setting up the call, maintaining the call, allocating radio channels and releasing those radio channels for during a particular communication time. And the fourth layer called the mobility management layer or the MM layer takes care of registration, authentication, especially we saw the SS7 being implemented, providing security, updating the location as the mobile station moves from one place to another, and every time it goes to a new location, a temporary subscriber number is allocated to the mobile device. So all that is taken care by the mobility management layer. And finally the last layer called the call layer or the communication layer. Here in GSM there's no other communication, so the main communication nothing but the call communication. So call management layer takes care of sending these SMSs, the call control, and the other supplementary services like the call waiting, call barring, diversions of calls. All these are some supplementary services. So all that is taken care by the call management. So in the protocol layer, the protocol architecture or the protocol plane of GSM, we will have these 5 layers: the physical layer, the LAPD layer, the network layer, the mobility management layer, and the call management layer. Coming to the addresses and identifiers, these are something which is very important because these identifiers or addresses are used for locating a particular mobile device where it is and then connecting a call. So these numbers are very important ones. So, and some of these are very familiar to you because all our mobile devices make use of these numbers or identifiers. So the International Mobile Station Equipment Identity, the IMEI number, which is very much similar to the serial number, and it is allocated by the equipment manufacturer, and it is registered by the network and it's stored in the EIR. So the EIR is nothing but a database in the architecture. If you can remember, the equipment identity register plays a very important role. The second identifier or the number is the mobile station roaming number, the MSRN, which is again a temporary number, dependent ISDN number, and it is assigned by the VLR. VLR is nothing but the visitor location register, which is allocated to the mobile station in a particular area or the visiting area. The IMSI number, the International Mobile Subscriber Identity, it is the most common one, and it consists of the MCC, which is called the Mobile Country Code, MNC, the Mobile Network Code, and the MSIN, which is nothing but the Mobile Subscriber Identification Number. The TMSI is a Temporary Mobile Subscriber Identity, which is another name or another number instead of IMSI, which is used in order to give privacy for users which are roaming. The mobile subscriber ISDN, MSISDN, is nothing but the real phone number which is allocated to the SIM, and it consists of the national destination code, the subscriber number, and the country code. And you also have the location area ID, LAI. So this identification is regularly broadcasted by the base station in order to identify where a particular mobile device is presently available, and it consists of the country code, the mobile network code, and the location area code. So that helps us to identify where the particular mobile device is and then make changes accordingly, and all databases are updated accordingly. So these identifiers and addresses that we have seen helps a mobile station in roaming. Roaming is a term that is used where a mobile station goes outside its home network. So these roaming and localization involves two important things. Two types of calls are taken care by the GSM. One is the mobile terminated call and the other is the mobile originated call. When a GSM device or a mobile station receives a call from a non-GSM network, then we call this as a mobile terminated call. And in this diagram you can see there's a calling station which is marked as number 1. It is outside the GSM network. It's a non-GSM device, and it is entering the PSTN. PSTN is public switch to transit network, telephone network. So here, whenever a call comes for GSM device, it has to enter through the gateway MSC or the GMSC. So the GMSC or the gateway MSC verifies with the home location register, and if necessary identifies where that particular mobile device is currently by checking at the visitor location register of that particular location, and then identifies which MSC is responsible for this mobile device or mobile station, and then it forwards the call. So then the gateway MSC forwards the call to the corresponding MSC, and the MSC, when it receives a call that has to be forwarded, it sends a signal to all the base station controllers or the base station subsystems. So they in turn respond if that particular mobile device is present within their radio cell, and if so, after receiving a response from the base stations, the MSC forwards the call to the base station, and the base station then in turns forwards the call to the mobile station. All the authentication verifications are security checks are all made by the base stations, and then the call is established. So that is how a GSM device receives a call from a non-GSM device. So this is the mobile terminated call, where the terminating device or the device which receives the call is a GSM device. The next is the mobile originated call, where a GSM device is making a call to a non-GSM device or non-GSM network. So the mobile station requests for a call to the base station to which it is connected. The base station in turn forwards this to the MSC, which is responsible, or the mobile switching center, which is responsible, and that particular mobile switching center forwards the call, identifies that this call is to a non-GSM number and not to a GSM number. If it's to a GSM number, then it has to identify which mobile switching center is in charge. Now, being the call is for a non-GSM mobile device, then it forwards it to the gateway MSC, because through the gateway MSC only a GSM network can communicate with a non-GSM network. So that is how the call is now forwarded through the gateway MSC through the public switched telephone network, and then to the other non-GSM network, so that a call can be established between those two devices. Handovers in GSM. Now, handover is a common term and a recurring event which happens unknowingly, because the user is not aware when a handover takes place. When a user actually moves from a base station or a tower, the strength of the radio signal obviously reduces. So this can result in the change of a radio cell. So there may be reasons where a mobile station has to switch from one radio cell to another radio cell, and this procedure of changing of resources is called as handover. In North America, they use the word as handoffs. There are two main reasons why a handover takes place. Number one, the main reason or the most common reason is due to when a mobile station moves out of the range of a base station or a base transceiver station, and hence the signal strength decreases, and hence it has to be allocated to another radio station. Number two, there may be reasons where the MSC and the BSC communicate with each other, identify that a handovering is needed, or handovering decision is needed in order to achieve load balancing within the network. There may be few base stations which are very idle, and there may be few base stations which are heavily loaded, and in such cases a handover decision can also happen. There are four types of handovers in GSM: the intra-cell handover, the inter-cell intra-BSC handover, inter-BSC intra-MSC handover, and the inter-MSC handover. So in the diagram you can see, in the first type, the intra-cell handover, the mobile station moves only within the cell, same radio cell, and hence there is no need or no change in the BTS or the BSC. In the second type, the mobile station moves from one radio cell to another radio cell. In that case, it moves under the control of a new base transceiver station, but both are under the same BSC, and hence the second type of handover occurs, which is called as inter-cell but intra-BSC, because the same BSC handles both the radio cells. In the third type of handover, the mobile station moves even further and switches from one base station to another base station. So in that case, it comes under the control of another MSC. In that case, the third type of handover takes place, which is nothing but the inter-BSC. So from one BSC to another BSC and to a new MSC. But this MSC, the third type, you can see the MSC is the one that has been handling or taking care of the earlier two radio cells also. So the third type, only the BSC changes and the same MSC is in control. The fourth type, the mobile station moves further down and enters the radio cell, where it comes under the control of a new base station and a new MSC. In that case, the fourth type of handover takes place, called the inter-MSC handover. Coming to the security services in GSM, GSM provides three important security services to its users. Number one is the authentication, where authentication of valid users are checked. Unauthenticated people cannot access a GSM SIM. Users make use of a secret PIN to access the SIM, and authentication is based on a challenge response scheme. The second service is the confidentiality, where data that is sent is encrypted. The base transceiver station and the mobile station apply the encryption to the data, the voice that is being sent, and confidentiality exists only between the mobile station and the base transceiver station. GSM does not provide an end-to-end security, but it provides good security in terms of data communication between the mobile station and the base transceiver station. Anonymity is the third security service that GSM provides. Anonymity is provided to the GSM users, hence important information and identifiers that reveal the identity of users are not used as such when they are transmitted. Hence, temporary identifiers are often used, which helps to protect the user's anonymity. So the three different algorithms are used: authentication, A3 algorithm, A5 for encryption, and A8 for key generation. The diagram here shows how security is implemented in terms of authentication, encryption, and for achieving encryption, the key generation is made use of. So in the left side, you can see the A3 algorithm. A3 algorithm is implemented both in the SIM, the device, the mobile device, and also on the authentication center of the station, base station. And a signed response, here it's mentioned as SRES. The signed response is generated. A signed response which is generated, making use of the A3 algorithm. So the A3 algorithm makes use of a random number, which is a 28-bit random number, and a key. So a 28-bit key. So these two together, the authentication algorithm, A3 algorithm, generates a 32-bit signed response. And the authentication center also performs the same thing and generates a signed response. Now, after transmission, the signed response from the user's end and the signed response that is already stored, both are compared, and they are only when they are same and there are no discrepancies, then we assume that the user has sent it and the data is authenticated. On the other side, on the right side, you can see the other block diagram that shows the encryption process. The A5 algorithm performs the encryption. So the encryption is there in the BSS and the mobile station. So the encryption between the base transceiver station and the mobile station is performed. For encryption, we make use of key generation. Key generation algorithm is the A8 algorithm. So both here in the authentication center and in the SIM, the A8 algorithm makes use of 128-bit key and the random number. The same random number is used. And the A8 algorithm generates a cipher key, which is called as KC. And that cipher key is a 64-bit key. Using the 64-bit key and the data, and the encryption happens. And that encryption algorithm is the A5 algorithm, and that is done in BSS. And then the encrypted data is sent to the mobile station. And the other way around, the mobile station, when it sends data, it is sent in the form of an encrypted, and the other end it is decrypted. So that is how security is given to the data that is being transmitted. So GSM provides authentication using the A3 algorithm, using the signed response or challenge response scheme, and it also provides encryption. Encryption, for providing encryption, for encrypting, it is making use of a key generation algorithm called the A8 algorithm. Coming to the conclusion, we've seen that GSM is one of the most successful second generation digital cellular network. We've seen there are three services: the bearer services, the telemetry services, and the supplementary services. And there are three important subsystems, namely the RSS, the NSS, and the OSS. We've also seen that GSM primarily concentrates on voice, and it was designed for voice transmission. In the protocol architecture of GSM, we have seen there are 5 layers, and each layer has their own responsibilities to play. Localization and roaming in GSM is achieved through a number of addresses and identifiers. So mobile originated calls and mobile terminated calls and how they work we have discussed. We've also seen the what is a handover and why a handover takes place. We've also seen there are 4 types of handovers in GSM and how each type occurs when the mobile station moves away from its home radio cell. Finally, we've also seen the security aspects in GSM, namely the authentication, the encryption, and how the key generation algorithm generates the key for encryption. So that's about GSM. Thank you.